this evening's update. Before we begin, I would just like to reiterate a press release that was sent out by the Ministry of Education to inform teachers and parents that all schools will be closed tomorrow. That is the 28th of November, Monday the 28th of November. And barring any further update, schools will reopen on Tuesday the 29th, except of course in those cases where cleanup is necessary. We are live in studio. Thank you to everyone who has joined us on air, on radio, and on social media platforms that are covering this. Welcome to the press who have joined us as well. I am joined in studio at the moment by Minister Faris Al-Rawi, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, and Minister Marvin Gonzalez, Minister of Public Utilities. We are joined via Zoom by Minister Rohan Sinanan, who is out on the ground, I believe in Rio Claro, and we will be joined by Minister Fitzgerald Hines, Minister of National Security, as the press briefing continues. Faris, I'm going to come to you now. So let's go to Minister Al-Rawi for an update from Rural Development and Local Government.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for joining us just before headline news at 7 o'clock generally and 6:30 TTT news. Thank you for allowing us the space and time. We have come to you 2 days in a row. Today, a little bit later than initially signaled, largely because we were all on the field. In terms of what we're dealing with, we remind that we had alerted the population that there was a significant amount of rainfall coming into Trinidad and Tobago and persisting definitely from yesterday into today, into probably about 5 days from yesterday. So another 3 days, another 4 days of rainfall. What you're noticing is that there is a significant amount of water. It may be drizzling at times, it dries up, it then comes a little bit heavier. But what we have received so far has been a significant amount of rainfall. Preliminary information coming from the Met Office tells us that for the month of November, we've already had approximately 180% more rainfall this month than normally happens over a 30-year average. And for Tobago, almost 100% more rainfall. So we're dealing with a significant amount of rainfall. We're coming to the end of the hurricane season, and usually we have our eyes on the coast of Africa as we come across to look towards Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. What we have noticed, what we've been advised by agencies, is that you're looking at the southern track of rainfall. It's a bit more south. There is a convergence zone. There is tropical activity happening. And even though we're not dealing with hurricanes and storms, we're dealing with a lot of water. And there's a significant amount of water logging. So what can we report today? I can tell you that each of us have been out on the field. I'd like to thank all of the agencies that worked today, the 14 disaster management units, Ministry of Rural Development, Local Government, Public Utilities, TNTEC, WASA, the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force, Coast Guard, the police service, the municipal police in particular, all of the volunteers in the CERT department. In terms of summary, let's deal with the summary figures. We have had we're now Riverine Alert number 2. We're at orange level. What does that mean? All of the water has percolated. It's now into the tributaries and rivers, and that is now at the point where we're looking at rivers and we're looking at systems, and we can tell you immediately that for Cipero River, we're at 90% capacity. Caparo River, 85%. Diana River, 75%. Perseverance Village, 75%. Rupsing Road Bridge, 85%. We are at 100% at the Kuarakara River. For Diego Martin River, 30%. We're at Maraval River, 10%. Guayaguayari Pool River, 96%. PDRC, that's the Pinal Debe Regional Corporation, we averaged in that area 75%. Kunapo, we are at 75%. Aripo River, 55%. Aruca, 36%, Carapo 85%, Caroni 84%, El Carmen 83%, North Oraput 75%. Why is that? We've been monitoring high tide and low tide activities, and those activities mean that when the tide is low, high tide now being 6:41 p.m., we're around high tide. We expect low tide at 12:33 p.m. tonight. 12:33 a.m. tonight. And that means around midnight, we're going to see more positions go down. That allows us to tell you about the major events. We have had a number of major events happen. In summary, we've had confirmed actioned items, 67 significant flooding events. We've had 106 fallen landslips, landslips that are of a significant level. Fallen trees, 31. We've evacuated over 31 people. In terms of the flooding areas, of the 67 areas that we've looked at, approximately 39 of them are already in subsiding levels. The landslips, we've managed to attend to 41 of the 106. The fallen trees, we've dealt with 28 out of the 31. In terms of divisional aspects, the numbers are broken down as follows. The Kuva Tabakit Talparo Regional Corporation, we had 26 flooding incidents, 8 landslips, 1 fallen tree. We have already dealt with all 26 of the Kuva Tabakit Talparo flooding issues, 5 out of the 8 landslips. Sawa Laventil Regional Corporation, 19 flooding events, 2 of them have been managed in terms of successful reporting so far. We're on the field with respect to the rest of the 17. Landslips, of the 18 landslips in that area, Sawa Laventil, we have dealt with 6 of the 18 so far. Fallen trees, we've dealt with 5 out of 7. Mayaro, Rio Claro, we saw a significant amount of water. We've had 18 reported significant events there. 7 of them have been brought under some degree of management. Landslips, we had 7 and 5 of them have been dealt with. In the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation, again, we saw a lot of water. 21 flooding events. None of them are satisfactorily under control at this point. On the landslips, 61 landslips in that area. All works are ongoing, so we're not reporting success in full measure there yet. 8 out of the 9 trees were dealt with. Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, 7 events of flooding, 3 managed under control so far. Landslips, 3 landslips, 2 of them have been dealt with properly. In the Piarco area, we have 2 flooding events. We have landslips 5. We've dealt with 2 of the landslips. Diego Martin, let's turn to Diego Martin. 5 events of flooding. We have not completed the work on those yet. 4 of the landslips were ongoing in that end. In the Chaguanas area, 7 flooding events. All of them are under works right now. And in the San Fernando City Corporation, 2 flooding events, 1 landslip. What we have done so far, we've distributed for today alone 3,140 sandbags, 43 mattresses, and 19 coverings. So we are expecting, in terms of summary of major events, reporting to be as follows. Pay attention to this because it affects your access routes. Minister of Works and Transport will tell you a little bit more about this. He's actually on the field in the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation now. He'll come to us in a little while. He's dealing with road works. I've just come off the field myself, as has Minister Gonzalez. Lady Young Road is closed due to landslips. We'll get more from Minister Sinilan on that. Manzanilla Mayaro Road is closed due to road failure. In the Mayaro Regional Corporation, Nariva River overflowed its banks. Again, in the Mayaro Regional Corporation, no access to the Beach Administrative District due to flooded access routes. Again, in Mayaro, Plumita Community Center is open now as an emergency shelter. In the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, in the Kuva Tabakit Regional Corporation, St. Helena and Valsain, St. Augustine South, we had major flooding. I was there personally. I can report 3 to 6 feet of water with most roads impassable. Indeed, we brought out the dinghies and other pieces of equipment to move people out, and the engineer battalion was on site to help us move. HDC was on site distributing sandbags in Rail Spring community, etc., as we monitored and moved people and moved relief in. In the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, Grand Riviere and Matlot cut off from access. Major landslides on the Paria Main Road. Ministry of Works and Transport, they will report on this in a little bit more detail. Excavators on site, work being undertaken as we speak. Sangre Grande Regional Corporation again, the North Oropouche River overflowed. The Vegadora Pooch, severe flooding. North Coast Road is being cleared of several landslips by combined efforts, and we report several landslips. Again, Minister Sinanan will report on these, but the summary version is that we had many backhoes in place, but we need excavators in some areas, and we have to await the stability of the soil, and we have to await the stability of the roadworks. St. James Bonds Road, we had a landslip in the TPRC. 20 families were evacuated by the corporation's disaster management units and the TTDF and the fire services. Carney, the river is touching the bottom of the bridge. We're at 86% bamboo number 3. This is the highest level reported for 2022 in terms of the type of rainfall that we have had. We have at present on the ground the first responders. The first responders are fire, police service, TTDF. The second response units are the disaster management units, TNTEC, etc., moving as first responders in some circumstances. We have fire services, municipal police, the CERT volunteers are all on the field, and Minister Gonzalez will tell you a little bit more about TNTEC's works where we have had failures associated with landslips. Right now, I can also say that all areas are under general watch and management. What I'd like to report in the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, certainly you can collect, because we've had a lot of inquiries about this, sandbags at the in their unit. In the Couva stockpile, again, Railway Road Couva, sandbags are available there. The Gasparillo stockpile, Charles Street North Gasparillo is there. In Carly Bay Road Couva, 35 people were in need of evacuation. Arrangements were made to relocate these persons. Earlier today, attempts to rescue a family at Santa Monica and Madras Road via a dinghy, where we had about 3.5 feet, 4 feet of water. Those efforts were taken by the Tunapuna Piarco Regional Corporation. TNTEC, fire services and the DMUs cleared trees, Claxon Bay Main Road, and whilst we saw the water rising, we kept watch to make sure that certain areas were locked off in terms of passability so that people didn't have too much difficulty. We're going to post the intimate details of these events, but suffice it to say, we wish to caution people that there are significant events afoot and that the rainfall, according to the Met Office, is going to continue. This means that whilst you'll not see severe thunderstorm type activities all the time, you're going to see periods of rainfall, and as the water continues to rise, the high tide being in place at present, we have to make sure that people just simply manage their safety issues by self-help. All of the disaster management units are available for call. We're going to run ticker tapes and contact numbers across for the population, as we have been doing throughout the day. In all of these circumstances, we are absolutely confident that the Ministry of Education's decision, approved by the Honorable Prime Minister, to close schools tomorrow was born into proper effect. Minister Gadsby Dolly, who has been carefully managing this, made the recommendations together with our team. So schools are closed tomorrow, reopening on Tuesday. That's in light of the orange level alerts that we have. We have had extensive flooding. We've had more rain. We have had more rain, and there is more rain on the horizon. We've had closure of many of our roads. If you look at North Coast, you look at the flooded areas, and you look at the Lady Young Road. If you look to the Ministry of Education, in fact, being required, even if the flooding didn't continue, 52 schools definitely had to be closed, and therefore the trigger was pulled to make sure that schools were managed tomorrow. Ministry of Education, as I wrap up now to pass to my colleagues, has cautioned schools are reopening on Tuesday unless further information is provided otherwise, because as the water subsides is when we will go in and effect the cleaning and other repairs. Please remember that the Ministry of Social Development is available via the corporations, via your MPs, for us to provide relief and other measures as is the Disaster Management Unit distribution network, where we come in and lend assistance. I think I've given a fairly long update. May I pass the microphone across to you, Simon, perhaps across to Minister of Public Utilities or Works and Transport?
Thanks, Faris. Long but comprehensive. Let's go to Minister Sinanan, who's out on the field, who's joining us remotely as well. Rohan, you want to give us an update now?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Faris. Thank you, Simon. Good night, Trinidad and Tobago. I am right now at the Plumita area, where I am actually with the Member of Parliament for this area, Dr. Rai. We have started actually in the west this morning, moving our way around Trinidad for the entire day. We saw a lot of challenges. We do have a lot of challenges. However, I want to just congratulate the staff of the Ministry of Works who have actually been coming out in full support. The staff of the Ministry of Rural Development, all the state agencies, public utilities, ODPM, everybody. I think we are really doing justice to the fact that with all the challenges around, we are maintaining connectivity to the best of our ability. On the Lady Young Road, we have severe challenges there. The road was closed last night. It was cleared last night. However, today, a lot more landslips would have slipped. A lot of trees came down. Some electricity lines came down. We're urging citizens, please respect the notices where the roads are closed, because apart from the Lady Young Road that we had some challenges with people still going beyond the barricade and they're putting their lives at risk in the central area. There's some roads that is really impassable, and some are trying to go through the flood waters. We have closed some of the roads in the central area as well because of the high water on the road network. Up in on the north coast, we have several landslips up there, but we're hoping that by tomorrow we should be able to clear all the landslips up there. In terms of the Paria Main Road, again, we do have a lot of landslips, but it is being cleared. At the end of the day, as we clear landslips keep coming down because of the saturation of the soil. And we will work throughout the night. We keep moving around wherever there's a problem. We try to address the problem tonight itself. There are challenges where you have floodwaters. You have to wait for the floodwaters to go down. However, there are areas where the landslips, and so I'm here with Dr. Rai, who showed me a massive failure of a culvert in the road. These are main connectivity for the entire, seeing that Mayaro is cut off, we have to maintain the connectivity through Beach, Rio Claro, all these areas. We are working on that throughout the night to make sure that, at least the roads remain passable. If you can avoid being on the road network at this time, the Ministry of Work urges that you stay off the road, because we do have heavy equipment moving around the island, and we will continue to do that tonight. Faris, you would have said a lot of what is actually happening, so I don't want to go into more details, just to give the assurance that wherever there are challenges, we do have a team outside. We're working with all the members of Parliament throughout Trinidad. This morning, I actually met with the St. Augustine MP. I'm here now with the Nariva MP. We are in the Port of Spain area. We are liaising all the way from San Fernando, Point Fortin, Labre. Throughout the country, we have teams working, and to give the assurance to the population, if we all work together, we will.
So, Minister Sinanan, again, one of the problems we have when we're on field is that connectivity may be an issue. If Minister Sinanan rejoins us, we will come back to him. Rohan, are you back with us?
Well, are you hearing me, Simon?
We are hearing you now, Rohan. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. We are way out heading to Beach, Rio Claro side. So we may lose connectivity. I just want to thank the family here who have allowed us to use the Bagaloo family who allowed us to use their house en route there. But if you lose me, it's because of the area that I am in. And we do have some challenges with the weather and so at this point in time.
Thank you very much.
So I'll hold on for any questions and so from the Ministry of Works. But if you lose me, it's because of the area that I am in.
Will do. Okay, let us move across now to Minister Gonzalez, who will give us an update from the Ministry of Public Utilities. Marvin.
Thank you very much, Minister Dino Briga, and good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening to my ministerial colleagues, Minister Faris Al-Rawi and Minister Rohan Sinanan, to our viewing and listening public. This is just to give you a snapshot of what is taking place in the public utilities sector at this point in time. As you know, the Ministry of Public Utilities is responsible for the Meteorological Services Division of Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the Water and Sewage Authority and the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission. I wish to thank the staff, the hard-working professional staff at all of the agencies for the work that they have done over the last 24 hours as we seek to give guidance and to bring some kind of stability to the utility sector in Trinidad and Tobago during these very difficult weather conditions. So I will first start with the latest prediction by the Met Office of Trinidad and Tobago, which I received at 5 p.m. today. The Met Office is saying that there will be intermittent periods of rain and or showers and a low chance of thunderstorm activity for the rest of this evening into tonight. Tomorrow, however, Monday the 20th of November 2022, models indicate during the morning an increased periods of rain or showers, heavier times, and a high chance of thunderstorms. Conditions should become mostly settled by mid-afternoon on Monday the 20th of November 2022, and the Met Office will continue to provide regular updates to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we wish to advise all citizens to pay close attention to the regular releases and information being provided to the people of Trinidad and Tobago by the Met Services Division. With respect to TNTEC, of course, a number of areas in central, northeast, and in Tobago have been impacted because of the extreme weather conditions that we're having. This morning at 7 a.m., the executive incident team and the chairman of the board of commissioners of TNTEC, they held a meeting, and field officers, supervisors were deployed in various areas to determine and to assess the possibility of deploying all resources to ensure that electricity supply is restored to some of the impacted communities. Of course, as a result of land slippage, inaccessible roads, and high flood waters in some communities, it would have impacted the utility and the Commission's ability to restore electricity to some of the impacted areas. However, I can tell you that the Commission was able to utilize drone technology and specially designed equipment and vehicles to access some areas that have been impacted by the weather conditions, as well as areas impacted by electricity supply. So we have in the distribution central area, Calibe Road, Couva, TNTEC was able to restore supply at 11:39 a.m. this morning. Mamoral area, the crew isolated an area, but that area was impacted by a TSTT light pole, and it impacted the Commission's ability to restore area. However, crews have been deployed, and we expect the electricity supply in the Mamoral area to be stabilized. Rajkumar Trace Chiklan, ARB at UTT in Caratal, Brasso Seco, Quarry Drive in Chamflair, Bonnier Road in Coriol, as well as the Grand River Matlot Village. As you would have heard from Minister Sinanan a short while ago, that area is completely cut off because of the road conditions. And of course, as a result, TNTEC is unable to access that community to restore electricity supply. Some of WASA's main transmission and distribution system have also been impacted, and the inaccessibility to that community is impeding the utilities and their ability to respond, to regularize and to stabilize the water and electricity situation. In Fishing Pond area, Valencia, Las Lomas, Heights of Aripo, Comuto Road, Coriol Village, Coriol, Manzanilla Main Road, Palo Seco, Penal Rock Road, Curacao Road, Isthmus Road in Guayari, Quinam Road, as well as Lady Young. Those are some of the areas where electricity supply has been impacted, but I can say in a number of those areas where TNTEC was able to access, they were able to deploy some of their crews to regularize and to stabilize the electricity supply to some of those communities. However, let me indicate and re-emphasize that in a number of areas, the Commission is unable to access these communities because of land slippage or high or rising floodwaters. And as soon as those things are brought under control with the assistance of the Ministry of Works and Transport and the Ministry of Rural Development, the Commission will venture into some of these difficult areas to restore their electricity supply. With respect to the Water and Sewerage Authority, WASA's plants, especially in northeast, central, and parts of Tobago, have been impacted. As you know, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, those areas rely heavily on surface water plants. And those plants and those rivers become very turbid. Silt, dirt, trees, bamboo, they go into some of those intakes, shutting down pumps, etc. So WASA has to take the necessary precaution to preserve the health of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to preserve the machinery and those pumps from being damaged by the silt, the dirt, the stones, and all the debris that go into those intakes. And as a result of that, a number of plants in northeast and in Tobago have been shut down until turbid water conditions or dirty water conditions in those rivers are cleared up, and until it is safe to restore those plants to provide the impacted communities with water. So, for example, in northeast Trinidad, we have the Matura, Tompir, Quarry, McDavid, Luango, Narango, Okono, Aripo, Guanapo, Cora, La Pastora, North Urupuch, Komuto, Talparo, and the Grand River Sanssouci plants. They have all been shut down, and we are waiting until the river and the water levels to clear before those plants are restored or put back into operation. In Northwest, we have Tyrico, Rincon, Las Cuevas, Lafayette, Blanchisseuse, St. Anne's. Those plants have also been shut down, and WASA is waiting for river levels to be completely cleared up, and when it is safe to restore and to return those plants back into operation. There are a number of transmission and distribution lines that have been disrupted because of earth movements, landslips, etc. And when it is safe, I can tell you that WASA crews have all been mobilized, equipment have all been mobilized. And when it is safe to venture into some of those forested areas, the Commission will deploy crews and workmen and women to those areas to ensure that we stabilize the water and electricity situation in some of the impacted communities. Let me close by thanking the hard-working men and women of the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, the Water and Sewerage Authority, the Meteorological Services Division, for the work and the great contribution they are making to the people and the sacrifices that they are making for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, we wish to express our sincere gratitude to the dedication that you have demonstrated over the last 24 hours, and we look forward to your continued support over the next couple of hours as we seek to restore the utility sector to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much, Minister Gonzalez. We are moving swiftly now to questions from media. Can I ask the media, as always, to raise your hand to indicate that you have a question? You will be asked to have, asked for 2 questions. Of course, please lead off with your name and the media house that you represent. I'm seeing one hand up so far from Mr. Stephen Cummings. Stephen, can we have your question, please?
Good evening to you, Minister, and of course the panel there. I just wanted to ask, just get 2 questions in quickly, and directed to local government Minister, Minister Faris Al-Rawi. Minister, flooding is not new to Trinidad and Tobago, and if you were to do the comparatives, with the last rainy season, I'm wondering how prepared have we been this time around as a country to treat with this current state of affairs. And, there have been several studies which have all informed, who and where we are as a country. Yet it appears that, many of us have again been caught by surprise, by this disaster. Minister Al-Rawi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cummings, for the observation. The fact is that we've had, as I started off by reflecting, over 180% more rain. You will recall that the Ministry of Works and Transport did go into an aggressive river cleaning and embankment exercise, and it was very widely publicized that the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government went on a national cleanup campaign where we cleaned over 40 times the height of the Twin Towers and we clustered assets, etc. What we're dealing with is a significant amount of rain. Take the flooding into account, and we're also dealing with land and geography. The flood plains have been occupied by the water. So South Valsayn is the same height as Bamboo number 3. It's 6 feet below the areas are surrounding it. If you look to Woodlands and Penal Debe, if you look to Manzanilla and the areas in the Mayaro Regional Corporation that have been flooded out, they are all in flood zones, be it in the river swamp, be it the Oropuch Lagoon, etc. What we're dealing with is water in the high tide position with heavy rainfall coming along what is referred to now as the southern track. That water goes into the plains. You are perfectly correct that we have noticed a significant amount of activity. And what's happened is that we've had a very wet hurricane season. And when the water is very heavy in the soil, you're going to have heavy soil and you're going to have landslides. So we have seen exactly what one can predict in terms of the natural weather systems that we're treating with right now. And dare I say that it is something that we're noticing across the world. The landslides and positions in Venezuela, the positions in Pakistan, the positions in Germany. What we're seeing right now is a significant amount of global pressure, hence the return to the COP27 and talking about global climate change, etc. These are realities, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago, where a lot of residential property has been built in flood areas that are natural lagoons or swamps or low-lying areas.
Can I just have my other question?
Please.
Minister Gonzalez, you've given some, a report quite maybe comprehensive as you can, comprehensively as you can. But I'm wondering, what other assurances you can give the public. We're talking about, looking at the national water grid here and distribution system. Is there a backup plan? And we're not just talking about truck-borne water supply system. What is in place really to treat with this aspect of it when we have a situation where, systems are down, river levels are up? What assurances can you give the public at this time with respect to the safety, portability of water, and that whole reliability as we would want to have it?
All right. So thank you very much for that question. I can tell you, recently I made an announcement that we have entering into an agreement with the IDB for a conditional line of credit with a total envelope of $315 million to be invested in the water sector in Trinidad and Tobago. The first operation is $80 million, and we expect to have access to that funding by the end of January 2023. A significant component of that envelope would be to rehabilitate and revitalize some of WASA's aging infrastructure. We will be investing a lot in automation. We will be investing in a number of pipeline, main transmission lines and distribution lines, especially in some of those areas where we get regular disruption. A key part of this is to ensure that our infrastructure and the water infrastructure is very robust and will be able to withstand some of the extreme weather conditions that we've been having, especially over the last year or 2 years. Every time it rains heavily, most of the plants in northeast Trinidad have to be shut down, leaving over 200,000 citizens out of water. Certainly, we cannot continue like that. What we are planning to do with the first loan operation is to invest in a lot of technology and equipment where some of those silts can be captured upstream without having to shut down the plants. And by putting some of those silt traps upstream, it means then that less turbidity and less dirt and silt will go into some of the water intakes, thereby shutting down, resulting in the plants shutting down. So we expect that with that investment, you will see a reduction in the interruptions that take place at some of these surface water plants in northeast Tobago, Central, and Tobago. What we also will be looking to do is to drill a number of groundwater wells in the Sangre Grande area. The hydrological report that I have at my disposal suggests that we have approximately 18 to 20 million gallons of groundwater available to Wassa and to the people of Sangre Grande. And with an investment in looking to wean or to harness at least 10 million gallons of water per day in groundwater sources, that would result in less reduction in surface water intakes, bringing more resilience to the water utility grid and less impact on shutting down plants and to the citizens who live in northeast Trinidad. Because we will now have a healthy balance between reliance on surface water plants as well as groundwater. As you know, groundwater is water from our aquifers, and that source of water is more resilient to climatic conditions, heavy rains in the rainy season, or in the dry season, less rain. So I look forward to that investment. I want to thank the Prime Minister for instructing that we enter into this arrangement with the IDB, and I look forward to that investment benefiting the people of Trinidad and Tobago and bringing more resilience to the electricity, not to the electricity, but to the water grid, and reducing the high level of disruptions that we have been having over the last years, especially in northeast Trinidad.
Thank you very much, Minister Gonzalez. Let's move quickly on to Rashad Khan. Rashad, your questions?
Hi, morning, everyone. Rashad Khan, Guardian Media Limited. Okay, so
Good
I'm
evening,
not sure who will
Rashad.
be able to take... Evening. Oh, yeah, sorry, my bad. I have been going all day. Okay, so my first question, I'm not sure who is going to be able to take it, but I'm still going to put it to the panel. So the Minister of Education would have announced that schools will be closed tomorrow because of the inclement weather, but I'm wondering if anything is being put in place for especially public sector workers who may have to leave flooded homes or will have to traverse flooded routes, and even now hearing about school closing tomorrow may not be able to get facilities in place to see about their kids tomorrow if they have to go to work. That's my first question. And now my second question is to Minister Gonzalez. Time and time again, we've heard, and now I know you would have explained why it is water has to shut down and stuff when we have these heavy downpours. But time and time again, we've heard that when there are instances of flooding, people have issues in getting water to even clean out their homes and clean out their properties to kind of get back to some sense of normalcy. So after this period has subsided, can we expect to see basically a loosening up of water restrictions like the schedule and whatever so that people can have water to see about their homes?
Thank you, Rashad, for that question. I can tell you that public servants will be in operation tomorrow. Why? Because there is a lot of relief that we have to coordinate in the public service. So we have not taken any decision other than for the schools tomorrow. Because of the circumstances, we do require our public servants to come out, because as the water subsides, we have all of the cleanup and relief efforts to go. That requires everything from how we pay for it to how we procure it and how we perform it. So we're asking public servants to do their best to be out tomorrow in proper circulation, because there is a massive cleanup effort to happen. Marvin?
Thank you again for that question. So let me start by saying that over the years, we have not invested sufficiently in storage of treated potable water. Most of the plants and most citizens rely directly on water treated from our water treatment plants around the country. As a result of that, any disruption that you have on the plant, a pump go down or the plant has to be shut down as a result of extreme weather conditions, the citizens immediately feel the impact of it, because you do not have sufficient storage on your grid to be able to maintain a supply to the citizens for 2 or 3 days whilst you address some of the challenges at the level of the plant. Again, thankfully, because of the investment that we are going to make in the water sector, a significant portion of that will be to install strategically around the country water storage tanks, so that in the event of disruptions taking place at the plant, the water being stored at strategically at some of our facilities and water storage facilities, the citizens will continue to have access to water whilst we address the problem. So yes, you are absolutely right. As soon as you have disruptions on the plant, the citizens will they will certainly feel the effect of that disruption. So it is unfortunate that in the midst of a flood, where people depend on the wish to have access to potable water to engage in cleaning up operation, oftentimes WASA has to respond to the cleaning of the intakes. They have to access sometimes very difficult conditions in rural parts, in the deep forest where a water line might be disrupted. So all these things are challenges that are faced by the utility company to ensure that we have a reliable supply of water when we are faced with extreme or adverse weather conditions. I explain again, a number of these plants are surface water plants, and in the same way that citizens suffer and they are inconvenienced as a result of rising floodwater, it impacts on WASA's ability as well to provide water, because WASA is also relying on that water that they cannot treat in order to provide to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And they have to wait until it is safer to start taking in that water so that it can be treated to supply. So we have to deal with it from a storage perspective, and we also have to deal with it from a technological perspective, where we improve the technology in the way that we treat turbid water so as to lessen the disruption that we have on a regular basis when we have extreme weather conditions.
Thank you, Marvin. Let's move on to Jewel Brown now, please.
Yeah.
Jewel?
Yes, hello, good evening. Two questions. One, I'm just wondering, in the context, as a follow-up to Rashad's question, that issue concerning persons for different reasons who may not be able to, even if they could live where they live, but they may not be able to, say, access the main roads to get to work. And if they do have access to, let's say, Wi-Fi or that kind of thing, would they have the option of working from home in a situation such as occurred today and with the weather expected tomorrow? That's my first question. The second question is, given what we've seen in certain communities, consistent flooding with heavy rain, going forward, would the issue of relocation of parts or persons from those communities to other areas that are less prone to flooding something that the government would be looking at going forward?
Thank you very much for your question, Jewel. Let's put this into perspective. The public service is in operation tomorrow. Obviously, there'll be circumstances of emergency, and the public service takes care of things like that, but we just want to encourage people who can come to work, please do come to work. The private sector will manage its own affairs. Obviously, we refer to events such as this as acts of God. I'd just like to remind, I got a message from someone a short while ago reminding that people are not focusing upon the fact that historical type of event analysis does not really help us in a world where climate change is very real and there are rising sea levels. So we are in a different sphere of operation. Relative to relocation aspects, a lot of these situations where you see flood-prone zones being occupied by homes, very, very, very many of them are private developments or individual homes. And therefore, there is a private sector and public sector aspect. The government obviously can't treat with all of it, but will do its best as we continue in our redevelopment works. In each of us as members of parliament, we can speak to our constituencies. Wherever we have redevelopment, you will see a different type of methodology. If you went into Rail Spring today in the HCC community, you'll notice that most of the homes are built on stilts, because the area is such that it's a low-lying area. There were some areas affected that are not built that way, but the development in the recent HCC-type developments, etc., have been more appropriate. If you look at our Housing Village Improvement Program, where we go into squatting communities and we reorganize and redevelop, they're mostly all built on stilts as well to cater for the terrain and structures. So this is something Ministry of Works and Transport will continue to engage in its re-engineering works. The climatic change is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. This is the reality of what the world looks like right now, and we will have to progressively work together to get to a more manageable situation.
Julie, do you have a second question? Or?
He has to.
He has to.
He has to. All right. Let's move back to Stephen Cummings now, who has his hand up.
Yes, thank you again. Stephen Cummings, 98.1 FM. Minister Al-Rawi, I must say that, there are some things in my mind that are still not connecting, because I'm seeing where there are international studies, and many times, we don't really have to reinvent the wheel. I've heard of and I've seen and read where there are things such as what is called like a sponge city. There are other areas where you have green roofs, rooftop gardens, and etc. Now, we've been talking about climate change and that being part of the reason for the problems that we've been having. But I'm wondering how, what is the national plan really? Are we seriously going into these areas or considering these areas so that when we have, the rainy season, such as what we have, we don't have to be under the stress and the strain socially and economically. Are those areas under serious consideration for us here in Trinidad and Tobago?
Thank you for your question. The answer is yes. In the various parts of whole of government, I can tell you just very quickly and on sort of a high-level perspective look down. Minister Gonzalez, who is to my left, to your right, is working on the water harvesting program, which is where you interrupt the water from hitting the ground by collecting it in containers and collecting it in tanks. In the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, we are treating with local government reform to provide more resources and drainage and maintenance aspects in the corporations directly, so there's a faster input of a solution. At the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Minister of Works and Transport is in fact engaged in a significant discussion with the IDB right now on engineering solutions. Just up to 2 weeks ago, he met with the residents of South Valsine and explained to them exactly why they were experiencing certain conditions that they do. So there is a whole of government approach to this. I'd like to remind that we did have a significant amount of interruption with COVID. Remember, flooding is not only how we treat with the water that comes down, which is what I just described in water harvesting, etc. It also deals with the implementation of how we manage it when it runs off. Therefore, drainage, detention ponds, new channels, how we cut them. If you saw the works that Minister Sinanan did in conjunction with Minister Gonzalez at Aruka Maloney, and he looked at the intersectional crossings, etc. on the highways, there is a significant amount of work. What's happening right now is that we're seeing, with the change in weather happening, I'm sure that you don't recall, I certainly don't recall, interventions from a government of the type that we're having as frequently as we're having, where we have coordinated ministerial intervention and management. This more so looks like what we had during COVID, where we had interministerial public interactions on a constant basis. So we're trying to step up the game. There are significant positions. I take your point that the communication of these matters in a more robust way will be helpful, and we certainly undertake to engage in that.
Thank you so much, Faris. Rashad, your hand is still up. Do you have another question?
Yes, I do actually. No, I remember in the contributions, Lord, my laptop freeze on that, but in the contributions, so I can't see who it was that said it, but we would have had mentioned that a shelter was open. So can we have a number for how many active shelters we have open right now, their occupancy, and when there was mention of the Defense Force and Fire Services going in to rescue people, is that the extent of their involvement within this whole scenario?
I'll get back to you thanks, Richard. I'll get back to you for the number of shelters that have been open, at least one for certain, and then we've engaged in temporary housing. The fire services have been assisted by the TTDF, by the municipal police, and by the Coast Guard. So we have had a number of agencies involved in evacuation. We've had dinghies out on the field and the disaster management unit as well. The regional corporations, we've been clustering assets. So, for instance, where Minister Sinanan is right now with MP Rai, Dr. Rai Ragbear, the corporation asset from Mayaro, Rio Claro, is attending in the excavation works there. So what we're doing is we're clustering our assets, clustering our people to engage in these services. From the local government reform perspective, the asset aggregation and management is what we're doing. It's why we did the cleanup campaign the way we did, so we could test the system and then analyze how to get it into reform. How many assets are needed per head, per management, what's the nature of the assets, their serviceability, etc. So there's a very coordinated amount of data coming in, which I, as Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, will certainly be sharing with the public, pretty much in the way that we did in other interactions we had when I wore a different hat, or as Minister Gonzalez will be doing as he comes to water harvesting and other aspects, etc.
Thank you. Jule, see your hand is up. One more question.
Yes, sir. Whoever can answer the question, just in terms of, as you would have spoken about the first responders, are you satisfied that there is enough equipment to deal with the number of evacuations, for example, in different areas, or any such rescues in floodwaters and that sort of thing, that they are properly resourced for that, given the number of reports you've had and some of the things you had identified, Minister Al-Rawi?
So, yes, the resourcing was done prior to these events happening. We catered for these things during the preparation for the budget. We stocked. I personally visited a number of the disaster management unit coordination points. Tunapuna, for instance, we were distributing everything from sandbags to mattresses and to dinghies being deployed from that area, etc. So there are 14 disaster management entities coordinated by the head office at Rural Development and Local Government. And what we do is we cluster our assets. So WASA's assets, TNTEC's assets, Engineering Battalion from TTDF, Municipal Police's eyes and ears, the regional corporations, the Ministry of Works and Transports, and the volunteers out there. Folks, I'd just like to say for a moment a sincere thank you to the many hundreds of volunteers and people that were out on the field today, and the very, very hard-working people across the government, all of the entities. For instance, you may not know that to deal with the wickedness of fake news, Julie, you sent me a few images today that we had to check. When people send us events that are happening which are just wrong, we send out our municipal police to go and have eyes and to be ears on the ground to look at these things. I'd also like to remind that when people willfully build and intrude upon waterways and watercourses, or they just think it okay to throw a fridge into a waterway, these are things which are man-made in consequence. And whilst we engage in cyclical and habitual cleanup exercises, there has to be a degree of being your brother's keeper. What I can say again is, if you see something, say something. It can be an anonymous tip. We are going to be launching some technology very shortly from Rural Development and Local Government that will make a significant impact in how you report and how you get results as well, and how you can see the performance of the works. Again, part of the local government exercise in reform.
Thank you very much, Mr. Al-Rawi. Guys, we are getting very close to 7:30. I know quite a few, the reporters who are on are going to be trying to get some of this into their news programs. Can I ask if there are any urgent questions that can get a quick fire response? If that is so, please let me know. So I'm giving you one opportunity now. Stephen, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you again. Minister Sinanan, I'm not sure if he's back with us. I just wanted to ask him, what is the plan for, for the actually, you mentioned that, persons should, if you don't have any business, I suppose, really being on the roads. But I'm wondering, what is the overall plan for the next couple of weeks? Is it that we're going to be seeing, or we're going to be having notices? These are the members of the public who are the motoring public. Is there going to be a schedule that will be published via the ministry, so that we can know exactly who is authorized to go where and that kind of thing?
Okay, so So let me address that. When I said if you have to say we're talking about during this and probably into tonight, and let's see what happened in the morning. Being out throughout the country today, what I found is a lot of people are just driving around to look at the flood. That is very unsafe. I saw vehicles going down because they did not anticipate where the road ends and where the drains are. And if that happens to you by a major water course, you're actually putting your life in danger. On the Lady Young Road, while we were working, people were just driving, through where we were working. That is not going to help us, not going to help you. When I say that, it's just during this period. If you have to be on the road, just stay off the road. If there's a road where the infrastructure have been threatened, we will close the road, but we will advertise and we'll let the population know, look, this road is closed and this is the alternate route. It is not to say that the next 2 weeks we are telling people stay off the road. It is just during this period, today, tonight, and tomorrow, or at the roads that we deem to be unsafe, we will advertise that publicly and advertise the alternative routes as well.
All right, thank you, Minister, because I think it was important, to get that clarification and that sort of,
very much,
at least informing the public on that. Thank you so much.
Faris, let's go across to you quickly.
Quick rejoinder as we come to an end. We're conscious that people are engaging in a number of things at the same time tonight. Just to let you know that the ODPM is actually on the field. So what the ODPM has done, and I thank the head of ODPM for pushing in this information, we have the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force and the Coast Guard with the engineering battalion. They've been deployed to conduct water rescue operations in Madras, St. Helena. They're still under flood water. They are also arranging for facilitation of dinghies from their warehouses so that a team from the fire services can also support the operation. They are engaged in a reconnaissance exercise right now that is comprised of people from the engineering battalion. They are in Oropoon Gardens, Piarco, Rail Spring, Valsayn South, based upon some requests coming in from the HDC. As we broaden the need to ensure people have access to evacuation needs or emergency positions, we just remind, please tune in to the web page of the ministry, look at the ticker tapes, look at the WhatsApp communications that are coming out, call the numbers. Remember, your first responders, fire services, emergency numbers, all of those are in gear. Also your disaster management units. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your very kind attention this evening. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you very much, Faris. I want to thank everyone who has tuned in to this very important update. I want to thank the members of the media who have joined us to assist in getting the necessary information out to the public. I want to continue the plea from yesterday and join with Minister Al-Rawi. We need to be our brother's keepers, especially in this time. If you're in a community, please look out for the old, for the infirmed, and ensure that those persons who need our help can get it. Thank you very much, and we will come back to the population as is necessary.
The Atlantic hurricane season is here. Are you prepared?
When moving to safety, you must have a plan for going to a designated shelter or to relatives or friends that live on higher ground, at least 25 feet or higher. Plan multiple routes since roadways may be blocked by floodwater.